Well, if you've been decluttering for any amount of time, you know that it's equal parts mindset shifts and decluttering tactics. I've read all the books on decluttering, and today I'm going to pare it down to my top 10 and share with you the best mindset shifts and decluttering tactics to fly through simplifying your house. And we're going to start number 1 with Goodbye Things by Fumio Sasaki. I think this book is highly underrated, and one of the really big concepts in here is the silent to-do list. So you've heard me talk about that before, so I'm not going to talk about that today. There's another really cool idea in here. It's called the 10th wear. So what happens? So we go shopping and we finally find the jacket that we've been looking for. And we're so overjoyed that we don't even worry about the price tag. It's fantastic no matter how we look at it, especially when we compare it with the worn out jacket that we're wearing right now. We pay for it, take it home, and feel that same sense of contentment when we put it on and stand in front of the mirror. The unfortunate thing is that although we can easily imagine how we're going to feel the first time we wear it, we are unable to imagine how we're going to feel when we wear it for the 10th time, or when we put it on a year after buying it. You get stuck in this eternal loop, and the number of possessions you have continues to increase. In the back of your mind, you know that you'll never be satisfied, but you keep thinking that maybe this time, the brief sense of happiness you feel will be the real thing. These are the mechanics of unhappiness, and they exist no matter how much you spend and no matter how much you own. And I think we can relate to this when we get something new. It feels so good right away, right? But this has stuck with me, and now I think ahead to how am I going to feel the 10th time that I put it on? And I've definitely noticed this with my clothing. I've talked about it. If I buy things that are kind of trendy or even patterned, I really like them the first couple of times I wear them, but they don't stand the test of time. And so now I try to select pieces that are a little more neutral, a little more classic, and I wear them over and over and over again. So if we're really serious about keeping clutter from collecting in our home, I think this principle is huge. Now, the next book, of course, we've all heard about, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. And of course, this book is most known for the concept of sparking joy, but something else that she really emphasizes is the importance of organizing by category rather than by location. Unlike traditional cleaning methods, which often involve tidying up one room at a time, Kondo's method emphasizes sorting through all items of a particular category in the entire house before moving on to the next category. The rationale behind this approach is that it prevents the common problem of items migrating from one room to another, thereby never truly getting rid of clutter. By focusing on categories, individuals can confront the true volume of their possessions and make more deliberate decisions about what to keep and what to let go. Kondo recommends a specific order for tackling categories. So her preferred order is clothes, then books, then papers, then miscellaneous items, and then finally on to sentimental items. We've got some really good books for that coming up too. And she has found that this progression helps to build decision-making skills and confidence as one moves from easier categories to more challenging ones. It also helps us to see the redundancy in our belongings, such as having multiple scissors scattered throughout the house. By gathering all the items from one category into a single location, you can better assess your needs and eliminate excess. And so this idea that we only have one spot for everything. All pens live in one spot, all scissors, all nail clippers, they all live in one spot. And you know, Marie is known for this idea too that we dump all of our clothing out on the bed and go through it all at once. Now for some of us, that's too overwhelming and we need to know ourselves. But for many of us, there's something very sobering about seeing one category of items all together. And today's video is sponsored by Blinkist, and you can find so many of these books on here. Blinkist is an incredible tool that takes all of the key points of over 6,500 nonfiction books and it boils it down to blinks. So some of the other books we're going to talk about, like The Joy of Less, you can find those in there. Many minimalism books. Also, we're not going to talk about this one, Cal Newport, Digital Minimalism, but it's huge. Messy Minimalism, or The Paper Solution, Dealing with Paper by Lisa Woodruff. You don't have to buy all of these books to get all of the main points. Again, what are we looking for? We're looking for mindset shifts and actual decluttering tactics. So you can have all of these books boiled down for you, and you can listen to the blinks or read them in about 15 minutes or less. And so through Blinkist, you get to get all the key points of these books. They'll help you discover new books. I've found many new books on simple living, productivity, parenting, relationships. It gets all of the best books in front of you and helps us to grow, to get our house decluttered, to become the best version of ourselves possible, to become more interesting. I love when I'm having a conversation with someone and I'm like, oh, did you know this? Or I just heard this recently or read this recently. It helps us to be able to connect with people and to relate to others. And right now, if you use our link down below or scan the QR code, you can try out Blinkist completely free for 7 days and get 40% off a premium membership. And then you're gonna have access to all of these incredible books too. I will put some of my favorites down below. Well, let's talk about this. This book, Outer Order, Inner Calm. And a couple things that stood out to me in this book. Gretchen said something so well, and it just really resonated with me. She said, when I'm surrounded by a mess, I feel restless and unsettled. When I clean up that mess, I'm always surprised by the disproportionate energy and cheer I gain. Plus, I'm able to find my keys. But that phrase, when she said that, I'm always surprised by the disproportionate energy and cheer I gain. And that's what I've felt too. And often I've tried to encourage you, like, hey, it's okay. Take the risk of getting rid of something because the disproportionate payoff is so worthwhile. We've gotten rid of 85% of our stuff. I don't miss it. And the benefits have been beyond anything we spent on that stuff or any of the hassle it was to get rid of it. The benefits have been incredible. And we're 9 years in now. And it's like the gift that just keeps giving. We just keep reaping these benefits. It's been so good. But she has a lot of great tips in here too for decluttering. And one of them that I have always shied away from is to identify an exact place for everything. Counterintuitively, it's easier and also more fun to put things away in an exact place rather than a general place. Life goes more smoothly when you know exactly where to find certain essential possessions. For instance, know where to find your passport, flashlight, vegetable peeler, Band-Aids, AA batteries, heating pad, pair of scissors, last year's tax return, screwdriver, birth certificate, teaspoon, measuring spoon, and packing tape. And my initial thought is that, yes, for those of you who are type A, this is very logical, right? Identify an exact place for everything. That's just how you're wired. Like, that makes a lot of sense. For me, I'm like, oh no. Like, if I have an exact place for everything and then it doesn't get put back there and then we don't know where it is and then everyone else knows I'm a failure because the thing didn't get put back, it just seems like it would never work in our house. But as we have begun to do this, because again, once you really reduce the inventory, this becomes much easier. And once you start to do this, it makes life so much easier for our brain, for our family. Our house stays cleaner. And so I love this idea of finding an exact place for every item. Okay, let's talk about The Joy of Less by Francine J. This was really good too. And I really liked her approach to become detached from your stuff. So in chapter 5, she talks about becoming detached from your things. And it's really good because she goes through a mental exercise and she's like, let's start with something easy to get ourselves warmed up. Imagine life without our stuff. Think about the last time you went camping. She goes on to talk about how easy it was. And then she says, now that you're loosened up, let's kick things up a notch. Pretend you're moving overseas. But don't start dialing your local self-storage company. This is a permanent move. You can't just stash your stuff away in anticipation of returning. You have to really declutter and think about, if you're moving overseas, what would you take with you? Would your old beat up guitar make the cut? How about your ceramic animal collection? Would you devote precious cargo space to that ugly sweater you received 3 Christmases ago? The shoes that pinch your feet after 15 minutes of wear? Or the oil painting you inherited but never liked? Of course not. Doesn't it feel great? It's amazing what you're able to ditch when you suddenly have the permission. And then she even takes it a step further and says, okay, now imagine you're at the end of your life. What things do you want to leave? Which then actually leads very well into the gentle art of Swedish death cleaning. And so we've talked about this book a little bit. I'm sure you've heard of it, but döstädning or death cleaning is a Swedish practice that encourages individuals to declutter their lives proactively, rooted in the idea of minimizing the burden on loved ones after one's death. It involves systematically reviewing and reducing personal possessions. This practice is not just for the elderly. It's recommended for anyone to start at any stage of life to simplify day-to-day living and make one's surrounding more manageable. The goal is to keep only those items that hold genuine value, thereby creating a more organized and less cluttered environment. This process also invites reflection on what truly matters, making it a deeply personal and potentially emotional experience. And so I love the author's experience in that book, and it does kind of go along the same lines of one of my other favorite books right now, which is Keep the Memories, Lose the Stuff by Matt Paxton. If you are in a season of downsizing yourself or you're working with a parent or a loved one, Matt talks about his legacy list. And he says, at its core, a legacy list is a method of narrowing down the essential items in your life. Whether you're trying to declutter, downsize, or move, putting together a legacy list can help you make the most difficult choices about what to do with objects that you feel overwhelmed by and that are important enough to keep. It's like a skeleton key that can help you open a door to a better life. That's what I teach you in this book. And so he goes on to talk about the legacy list, and he challenges you to pick out 5 items that, whether it's your legacy list or you're curating it for a parent or a grandparent, think about 5 items that really represent their life and their story. And so he walks through a lot of great tactics of creating the legacy list, how to work with parents when you're downsizing, other tactics when you're just really dealing with an overwhelming amount of stuff. So this book is absolute gold when it comes to that topic. And then next we have The Minimalist Home by Joshua Becker. And I love how practical Joshua is. And in this book, he really challenges you to imagine the life that you want to live. And then we work backwards to align our home with that. And so this idea that we're not going to keep things that aren't serving us. And this has been really helpful to me to look at items in our home as a tool. It's a physical thing. It doesn't have feelings, right? I remember when I got to do an interview with Joshua a few years ago, and I was like, Joshua, what about gifts? And he's like, what about gifts? He's like, well, do you want it? Does it serve a purpose? Like, why would you keep it? Once the exchange is done, it's done. And I'm like, oh, to have such a black and white approach to things, right? But there's a lot of truth in that. And we get reeled in, we worry about what people are gonna think, but sometimes we do need to just say, you know what? The transaction's been done. Now, are there a couple people in my house that no matter what they give me, yes, I will display it, I will wear it, I will whatever. Yeah, but that's like 2 or 3 people. That's like my mom and my grandma and my sister, and that's it. Anything else, if it's useful and helpful, yes, of course I'm gonna keep it. If not, then I'm gonna be willing to let it go, because again, a peaceful home pays dividends, and having it decluttered, the rewards are disproportionately awesome. And of course, we have to talk about Decluttering at the Speed of Life by Dana K. White, and she is best known for her Decluttering Without Making a Mess method. And one of the steps in that process is to take it there now. So if you come across something and you're like, oh, this belongs in the other room, the idea is we don't make piles behind us, we just take it there now so that we're never making a space worse. And this is especially helpful for anyone with energy limitations who's feeling overwhelmed or who has had a habit in the past of making piles and then they never get dealt with. Maybe the kids come home or something else interrupts you, or you just run out of steam, and then now you have all of these piles behind you. And so it is a great approach. I think you really need to know yourself. It depends on the day. Some days I'm like, take it there now. I don't have the capacity to make piles. Other days I'm like, I can make some piles. And then when they start to get to be more than like an arm load, I'm like, okay, now I gotta run that to the basement or the garage or wherever it needs to go. And so there's definitely with all of these an element of knowing our own self. If you have struggled with being successful with decluttering in the past, it is definitely worth trying it out. Now, a newer book I've just got, but I've always heard about, is Minimalista by Shara Gill. And this is really neat because she's not only into decluttering, but also into organizing and then home decor as well. And so she really brings the whole package together, and this book is meaty. Let me tell you, it's beautiful and there is so much information in here. But one thing that stood out to me that she shared, she said that over the course of my career, I've helped clients all over the world declutter and organize their homes. I've worked with students in rundown studio apartments. I've helped multimillionaires in mansions. My clients have included actors, tech entrepreneurs, brain surgeons, and NASA scientists. And here's what I've learned. A cluttered living space is a universal stress trigger. It doesn't matter who you are or where you live. Clutter doesn't care if you're smart or famous. More than that, your stuff tells an important story. Your belongings are a physical manifestation of your life. Your stuff can reveal what you value, what your priorities are, and where you're stuck or struggling. And so it's so empowering, and I love how she describes that. But she actually tackles scarcity mentality too. And she says, one of the most common questions I hear is, but what if I need it one day? What if I need it one day? This question is generally useless, and it will encourage you to hold on to everything just in case. It feels so much better to believe that your life is abundant, that you are resourceful, and that you will always be able to buy or borrow the things you truly need. In all my years of helping clients organize their homes, not once have I had someone call me and regret that they got rid of something. Instead, I constantly hear how free, light and liberated people feel when they allow themselves to just let go and move forward. I love that. I constantly hear how light and liberated people feel when they allow themselves to let go. Isn't that so encouraging? And then in here too, she has her editing questions cheat sheet, and so she has her questions in here that she uses to declutter too. And so this really inspirational book, especially if you really enjoy home design and you want inspiration for what your home could look like once you get it decluttered. And so that was really fun to read. And then lastly, of course, I have to talk about Simplicity Parenting. This is the go-to book I highly recommend to anyone with kids, because the question often comes up, can I declutter my kids' toys without them? The whole book is jam-packed with helpful information. So if you have kids, like, I highly recommend you read it. This is also on Blinkist as well. But okay, if you have a large number of toys, you'll need to whittle that quantity down considerably. This is best done without your child. That is, if you want to get the task accomplished. By yourself, you can declutter dramatically, guided by your own sense of what toys have staying power for your child. When you're finished, they may greet the results with a question about one or two things that they miss. However, if you try to declutter with your child, whether they are 3 years old or 12, they will likely argue to save everything in the pile. They'll profess undying love for all the things they never play with, the toys that have been broken or long forgotten. Again, this is a job best done without them. And this has definitely been my experience too with our own kids as I've worked with other parents. And so I do want to encourage you to try this on your own. And again, we're just boxing things up. You're not bringing it to the donation center. You're not throwing it in a dumpster. You can pack it up, set it aside. And then if they ask for a single item by name, you can get it back out for them. But I love what he says, that it's best done on our own as parents. And then he goes on to give more guidelines about toys as well, about, not having fixed toys, having toys that kids can pour their imagination into. He says that toys that endure in reality and in our memory are often the simplest ones. When you think back to the toys you treasured, the ones you might still have as an adult, they are often quite elemental. And so tons of great ideas in here. And so again, I really think that these books can be very helpful helping with mindset shifts, but then also the practical side of it too, like saying you do have permission to declutter toys on your own, and then giving more guidelines for that as well. But no matter how you go about it, decluttering your home is one of the most important things that you'll ever do. I shared an article recently about all the incredible benefits of having autonomy, of increased confidence, increased happiness. It is just remarkable, all of the benefits that we experience when we get our home highly simplified and highly decluttered. And so I hope these ideas are helpful, and I hope that I can continue to support you on your journey. If you haven't done so, would you mind subscribing? When we grow our subscribers, it helps get our videos out in front of more people. It's also so awesome when you share them with your friends and family too. Everyone is drowning in clutter, and so we all need to work together to get this stuff moved out. So I'm so glad that I could support you along the way. I'll link to my playlist of long format decluttering videos. They're really great to put on in the background, and another favorite will pop up here as well. But let me know down below what books have been most impactful for you, and I love you. I hope you have a really good day, and I'll see you again soon.